I gather that the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, has asked an MP to carry out an investigation into discrimination within the British court system. Apparently, this is as a result of something pretty much everybody has known for a very long time, that a disproportionate number of black and minority ethnic defendants end up getting convicted and probably getting longer sentences in the British courts than their white compatriots. Also, it is the case that the British prisons have a greater proportion of black and minority ethnic inmates in them compared to their percentage of the general population. As to why Mr. Cameron has decided to have this investigation now, or inquiry, into something that has been going on for probably the last 20 or 30 years, is not clear. It has been ignored for all that time. I imagine some people would have denied it, but it has been a reality for a long time. So it's not clear why it should now become a matter of inquiry, especially for a government that is cutting back big time on the welfare state, which means that the state will provide less support for vulnerable citizens and leave them to fend for themselves. The government, after all, has cut back on the legal aid support that people who seek justice in the British court system can get, so that people, if they haven't got the money now to go and prove that they're innocent or that they are being discriminated against, if they haven't got the money, they cannot prove it because they need the money to put their case. Prisons are more overcrowded. The government has contracted out the running of prisons to private institutions, which mean that these institutions have a vested interest in ensuring that there are more people offending, more people getting convicted, and more people being put into prison. This is how the private security companies, some of them multinational ones, are going to get their money. So they have a vested interest in criminality, if you like. They have a vested interest in discriminatory practice within the system. And yes, as is the case in America and probably many Western countries, you find a disproportionate number of black and minority ethnic people being incarcerated, whether it's America, Britain, France, and probably Germany as well. Now, as I was saying, it is not clear to me why David Cameron wants to carry out this investigation, why he is asking a black barrister to head it. Probably so that when David Lammy comes back and say a lot of this is due to discrimination, people in the establishment can say, well, what did you expect? It's a black man who head the inquiry. Now, as to why there are more black people in being convicted in front of the British judiciary, I mean, there have been a number of reasons for that. Racism, the fact that there are not many black and minority ethnic judges and magistrates in the court system. There is also the fact that I think it was British government who actually passed legislation which allow the courts, actually require the courts to pass extended sentences and even indefinite sentences on people who have been convicted of certain offenses, which means that when those offenders are freed from the prisons, they remain effectively prisoners in the society for many, many years. Now, this is something which the government has set up itself. So judges are bound to adhere to what the law requires of them in terms of how long they can, how long the prison sentence they can give to certain offenders are in terms of minimum sentences and maximum sentences. It might well be the case that again there are more black ex-prisoners or inmates who are subjected to extended prison sentences or indefinite prison sentences. Because stereotypically, at least, the black person is seen as being more aggressive, being more violent, and stereotypically, this is what influenced the courts as well and the judiciary system. So judges looking at black people coming in front of them, some of these judges at least might be working on the presumption of guilty until proven innocent. Of course, these judges are the product of British society, so the same sort of racism and stereotype about black people and people of ethnic minority origin will inform the thinking and the mindsets of many of these judges and magistrates. Matter of fact, even more so, because these judges and magistrates are seeing many, many black people, many people who are coming before them because they are accused of offenses. So the judges are not really in their day-to-day life, except for black colleagues. They're not seeing many positive black people appearing in front of them. They're seeing people who are accused, people who have been convicted, and people who they're sending down. So again, why carry out an investigation? I'm sure any informed prime minister or even MP could tell you why there is greater discrimination against black and minority ethnic people appearing in our courts. So the issue is not one of Well, what is the reason for this discrimination? It happens in the society, it happens in the court. You would have thought that the government would have a better idea of what is happening already and would be looking at how to resolve the problem. But that is not what is happening. The government, in the form of David Cameron, is saying, I want to know what the reasons are, what is the cause, and then David Lammy is required to make recommendations to the Prime Minister. I would say, don't bother, David. It makes no sense. You're wasting your time. Thank you for listening to me.